LEGO in the late 90s was a much different company than it is today. Poor business decisions were made left and right as LEGO was posting its first financial losses and trying to avoid bankruptcy. Some blamed digital products like computer games, while others blamed the Legoland parks. Regardless, LEGO knew it needed to make some changes fast if it was going to stay afloat. If you've already seen my previous video about the LEGO iceberg, you already know about just how hectic LEGO's situation was at that point in time. The company acquired the license to produce Star Wars sets in 1999, a theme which was an immediate success, but the royalty payments made to Lucasfilm left LEGO with a far smaller slice of the pie. LEGO then decided that an original story-driven theme would be necessary to win the approval of children and their parents' wallets. The initial idea for Bionicle came from the theme's co-creator Christian Faber, who said that he was sitting in on a meeting with those responsible for LEGO Technic when it occurred to him that he would much rather build a character instead of another car. Faber realized that the human body is built into a functional model from small parts. He recalled thinking about the concept of building a living thing from a box of these spare parts. Faber called this concept Cybots, a line of human-like action figures which featured attachable limbs and ball and socket joints. He later pitched this idea to LEGO, but it would initially be implemented in 1999 as the Slicer theme, otherwise known as Throwbots in the US and Canada, in addition to Robo Riders later the next year. Bionicle was originally going to be called Boneheads of Voodoo Island, but this concept was a bust. Focus groups demonstrated that kids didn't respond well to the idea of these detachable heads, so LEGO pivoted its focus to what is recognized by fans today. The names Bionites and Afterman were also considered before the new project was ultimately given the name Bionicle at an internal LEGO meeting. This was a portmanteau from the words biological and chronicle, which also referenced the word bionics. To accompany the theme, LEGO worked with an outside creative agency to create an elaborate story featuring extensive lore focusing on half-organic, half-robotic characters, which would then be told across a vast multimedia spectrum, including the likes of comic books, novels, video games, movies, and online content. Elements of Maori culture, a group of indigenous people in New Zealand, became a key inspiration behind the story and the theme at large. A group representing the Maori would later sue LEGO, but I'll get to that later on. Bionicle would also utilize tropical environments and characters that were carried over from both Throwbots and Robo Riders. The toys would be an expansion of the LEGO Technic theme, using the same building system that was already featured in its predecessors. Story-wise, Bionicle followed the adventures of the Toa, which were heroic biomechanical beings equipped with numerous elemental abilities. The Toa had a sworn duty to protect the Matoran, the prime populace of their world, and help reawaken the Great Spirit Motunui. At first, Bionicle faced resistance from company traditionalists because LEGO had no experience when it came to marketing a story-based original theme. The warlike appearance of the characters also went against the company's values of avoiding creating sets using themes of modern warfare or violence. LEGO defended the product line by claiming the theme was about good hero warriors designed to combat evil enemy fighters in a mythical universe. Therefore, children are not encouraged to fight each other. The first wave of Bionicle sets were launched in December of 2000 in both Europe and Australasia as a test market to predict just how well it could perform in North America. Immediately, it was clear that Bionicle was a hit. As a result, the theme launched in North America in mid-2001, where it was a massive success and earned LEGO €100 million in its first year alone. New sets were released every 6 months, which varied from buildable action figures to playsets. These sets would gradually increase in size with every new wave released, and other collectibles such as the Kanohi masks that certain characters wore were also sold. An emphasis is placed on the masks worn by the Toa, which were responsible for their elemental powers, giving the group abilities including super strength and super speed. The Kanohi masks were attached to the face by a knob-like piece, making them easy to take off and also allowing the characters to take aim at their enemy to knock the mask off of them. Some of these masks became quite valuable as they withheld secret codes that, when entered on the official Bionicle website, provided the user with Kanoka points, which allowed them to access exclusive membership material. The first story arc ran from 2001 to 2003 and took place on the tropical island of Motunui, named after the spirit character of the same name. It follows the arrival of the 6 Toa Mota and their adventures in protecting the Matoran villagers. Most of the comics and novels were written by Greg Farshtey, who was also responsible for many blogs and podcasts that helped expand the Bionicle lore at the time. Among the Bionicle media release in its first year was the first Bionicle video game, titled LEGO Bionicle: Quest for the Toa, and released for the Game Boy Advance in October of that year. Also planned was a GameCube and Windows game titled LEGO Bionicle: The Legend of Motunui, set to release in December. However, the game was later cancelled despite being about 90% complete. The game was supposed to be a direct sequel for Quest to the Toa, and was intended to be a conclusion to the 2001 story arc. However, after being scrapped, the story was then told in other multimedia projects. After being heavily promoted by LEGO in anticipation of its release, it became quite sought after by fans after its cancellation. In 2018, 2 developmental builds of the game were leaked online, and an updated version of the game titled Bionicle: The Legend of Motunui Rebuilt was released in 2019. McDonald's included packets of collectible Bionicle cards with kids' meals during this time as well. Each packet contained 5 cards, 4 regular and 1 holographic or special card. Also included was a mini comic that came with an instruction booklet on how to play the card game. McDonald's additionally released sets of the island's inhabitants, which were small and had about 8 pieces in total. These sets could launch a bamboo disc with their arms and came in polybags. In its first year, Bionicle brought in $160 million in sales and was named the most innovative toy of the year by the Toy Association. However, with success came controversy and legal trouble. Not too long after Bionicle's tremendous initial success, multiple Maori tribes were angered by LEGO's use of some of their words, which LEGO used to name things including characters and locations in the Bionicle world. The Maori are a Polynesian people, making up about 13% of New Zealand's population at the time of the controversy. The Maori claimed that the company was illegally patenting aspects of their culture and alleging that LEGO was trying to obtain legal rights to Polynesian words. A LEGO spokesperson denied the allegation in question, claiming that the LEGO Group was not trying to interfere with the cultural heritage of Polynesian people, and added that while LEGO had drawn partially on Polynesian culture for inspiration, only the word Bionicle had been registered as a trademark. After receiving a letter of complaint and later meeting with Maori lawyers and claimants in Auckland, New Zealand, LEGO acknowledged the company used Maori words in the Bionicle theme and agreed to change the names of certain elements. The groups also came to an agreement to still allow LEGO to use a minority of their words. LEGO also offered to help draft a code of conduct for toy manufacturers wanting to use traditional knowledge in their products. This change is explained in the Bionicle story as a naming ceremony for certain Matoran after doing various heroic deeds, but the pronunciations remain the same. For example, Huki, spelled H-U-K-I, was changed to H-E-W-K-I-I. The villagers were originally known as Tahunga, but the name was then changed to Matoran. Additionally, Maku, spelled M-A-K-U, means wet, and was used to name a water character. This was later changed to M-A-C-K-U. Other names like Toa, which means warrior, were not changed. As Bionicle became more and more popular, it became one of LEGO's most successful themes and accounted for nearly all the company's financial comeback from the previous decade as it hit its stride just as LEGO's financials were beginning to bottom out. Bionicle was named the #1 LEGO theme in 2003 regarding both sales and popularity. When LEGO tiptoed around bankruptcy during that same year, Bionicle accounted for 25% of the company's total revenue and 100% of its profits. The Bionicle website was also averaging more than 100 million page views per month. LEGO was cutting down on its workforce and reduced the number of pieces it produced All the while, it increased its range of licensing deals and continued to diversify the Bionicle brand. From Bionicle Nikes to Bionicle branded Colgate toothbrushes, Bionicle was just about everywhere in the early 2000s. 2003 would also go down as one of the biggest years in Bionicle history, as it was the year of the first feature-length Bionicle movie titled Bionicle Mask of Light. The direct-to-video movie follows two friends from the fire-based village of Takoro on a quest to find the owner of the Mask of Light, an artifact that could potentially defeat Makuta, an evil entity threatening the island. At release, Mask of Light ranked high in multiple sales charts. It was second on Amazon.com's VHS bestseller list, coming in behind the VHS release of Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. According to LEGO's financial report, it was the top-selling VHS release in the US in its first week, in addition to becoming one of the top premiere DVDs of the year. The film's rental sales came in at number 8 in the animated direct-to-video charts, totaling $4.24 million in revenue by October of 2004. The movie would go on to win the Reel Award for Best Visual Effects in a DVD premiere movie, and also the Best DVD Release Award at the 2004 Saturn Awards. LEGO promoted the movie with new sets based on the original characters, in addition to a video game based on the story, released for just about every major platform at the time, ranging from GameCube to Windows. Cartoon Network's anime block, Toonami, held a sweepstakes for the TV premiere of the film, in which viewers could call the channel's number for a chance to win prizes, which included a 36-inch Magnavox TV and a Platinum Avoki mask. 2 further Bionicle movies were confirmed before the release of Mask of Light, with the second being another direct-to-video movie and the third being slated for a theatrical release. 2004 saw the introduction of the second arc of Bionicle's story, which acted as a prequel to the first, taking place on an island called Metru Nui. It followed a different group of Toa, which would go on to become Turaga, the Matoran's elders, and also explained how they all came to settle on Motunui Island in the first place. The second movie, titled Bionicle 2: Legends of Metru Nui, was released the same year, expanding on this story. More specifically, the story follows the journey by these characters to save Metru Nui. To do so, they must prove their worth, find their mask powers, and protect the heart of Metru Nui, all while fighting off the evil Makuta. The sequel received mixed reviews, but it also filled plot holes from the first movie. It would go on to win 2 awards, just like the first movie, and was also nominated for 4 more. A video game tie-in titled Bionicle 2: City of Legends was supposed to be released in late 2004, but this game was later cancelled. The third movie, Bionicle 3: Web of Shadows, was released in 2005, and just like the second movie, Web of Shadows was also a prequel to the first. Despite initially being planned for a theatrical release at some point, the movie was ultimately also a direct-to-DVD release, just like the other movies. The plot follows the Toa Metru and their return to their home of Metru Nui to rescue the Matoran populace, who are in a deep coma-like state following the events of the previous movie. Upon their arrival, the Toa discover that the city had been overrun by spider-like creatures called Visorak, who later captured the Toa and mutated them into monstrous creatures called Hordika. The Toa Hordika then work with a group of beings known as Rahaga to find a way to revert to their original forms while rescuing the Matoran as well. The film received fairly positive reviews and was nominated for 2 awards, although it won neither. Cartoon Network hosted another sweepstakes contest on its Maguzi block for the TV premiere, in which viewers could call in again to the channel's number for the chance to win Bionicle sets, in addition to one winner receiving a life-size Visorak Keelorak statue made entirely out of Lego. Scholastic also released books to tie in with the original trilogy. 2005 was also the first year of playsets, Bionicle models of large buildings and vehicles, using a combination of both LEGO system and Technic elements. The figures in these sets didn't have any articulation points, and consisted simply of 2 parts, the figure and its weapon. The culminating third arc was then launched the next year, which sees a team of Toa set out on a quest to find the Mask of Life. an artifact which can save the dying Motunui. Also released in November of this year was Bionicle Heroes, the latest in the line of Bionicle video games, developed by Traveler's Tales and released for a variety of platforms, from Game Boy Advance to the Xbox 360. Despite coinciding with the third arc in the story, the game largely ignores the official Bionicle narrative for the purpose of allowing more creative freedom within the game. The game would also be adapted to the Nintendo Wii a few months later in April 2007. Bionicle was again named the #1 LEGO theme in 2006, as far as sales and popularity, just as it was in 2003. However, 2006 was the end of Bionicle's peak, and sales would dip in the years that followed. 2007 marked the end of the playsets era, with 3 more system and Technic hybrid-style sets. The next year, LEGO began distributing the Fantoka trading card game, which was given out for free in small packages, including about 6 or so trading cards with a picture and information of one of the Makuta, Toanuva, of Matoran, or Shadow Matoran. Each also included one holographic card featuring the combination of a Matoran and a Fantoka. They were given out in many toy stores in Europe. A 4th story arc was originally envisioned as a soft reboot, introducing the desert world of Bara Magna and its inhabitants. However, future storylines were soon abandoned, as LEGO would make an announcement that broke the hearts of Bionicle fans all across the globe. In November of 2009, LEGO announced that Bionicle production would cease after a final wave would be released the following year. LEGO made the decision primarily due to recent drops in sales and a lack of new interest in the theme. Some speculate that the decade-long backstory and lore is making it difficult to attract new fans. Despite this, Bionicle is still far from irrelevant. Toy statistics revealed that as of 2009, 85% of boys in the US aged 6 to 12 have heard of Bionicle, with 45% owning the sets. The final Bionicle movie was released during this year, although by a different studio than the prior trilogy. Bionicle: The Legend Reborn was released through Universal Pictures Home Entertainment and was a standalone sequel that followed the 2009 story, featuring different characters than the other movies before it. Worth noting is that this one starred Michael Dorn from Star Trek as the voice of Motunui. The Legend Reborn was planned to be the start of a new trilogy. However, production on the sequels was cancelled due to LEGO discontinuing Bionicle. The story was later concluded through other outlets such as comic books and a web story called the Motunui Saga. Bionicle was initially planned for a 20-year run, but the theme discontinued about halfway through that goal. Bionicle comic book writer Greg Farshty was given permission from LEGO to continue the Bionicle storyline, writing chapters for new serials regularly on the website BionicleStory.com. The last wave of Bionicle only featured half a dozen sets known as the Bionicle Stars. The piece count of these sets ranged from 15 to 21 pieces. Fans were critical and disappointed in Bionicle Stars, as many didn't feel that it was a proper conclusion to the Bionicle theme. By the end of Bionicle's initial run, the theme had sold over 190 million toys. Hero Factory was launched in the same year as Bionicle's Cancellation and was intended to be a successor of sorts, as it continued to use the building system introduced in Bionicle before changing into the character and creature building system that would also be used in other LEGO sets later on. Farshty would stop posting content in 2011 due to numerous commitments, and Bionicle's story was later shut down in 2013 as well, leaving a number of the Bionicle serials incomplete. Despite this, Farshty is still active in the Bionicle community and even contributes new details on various stories to online forums and message boards on occasion. Hero Factory would continue until 2014, until something big happened, something Bionicle fans were asking LEGO for since the announcement of the line's retirement. Bionicle was coming back. It was partially due to the overwhelming support from fans worldwide that Bionicle became the first LEGO theme to be introduced following discontinuation. This new generation of Bionicle used the CCBS system, first introduced with Hero Factory, and was more of a reboot rather than a continuation of the original story. Work on the updated Bionicle began back in 2012 when Matt Bedecker, a junior designer who worked on Tiro Factory, was promoted to senior designer for the project. Bionicle's comeback was publicly announced in September 2014, and the first wave of sets and story details were then revealed at New York Comic Con less than a month after. The wave launched in January 2015 to a mixed reception from critics and fans alike. The playability of the sets was applauded, but many criticized the simplified story, claiming that the backstory of these new characters was rather undeveloped. Among the characters were the Protectors, the elders of each village, similar to the Turaga. The sets were sold in canister-like carton boxes and include several features, from a unique melee weapon to a special mask. Generation 2 was based on the story of the original, but with simplified lore and a smaller range of multimedia content. The multimedia was scaled back in comparison to the first generation and was comprised of online animations, a book series, and graphic novels. Also released was a 4-episode animated Netflix series titled LEGO Bionicle: The Journey to One. This was released in early 2016 to also detail the narrative. Despite all of this, LEGO later discontinued their reboot later that same year, citing low sales again. This came as a surprise to some, as the company had plans to release new sets through at least 2017. It is believed by some that poor marketing and depending on fans to promote Bionicle were the cause of LEGO ending production. The new simplified story, in addition to some of the issues that caused LEGO to end the theme in the first place, may have also had an impact on Generation 2's decreased interest. Some fans went as far as to blame LEGO for wanting the theme to fail, claiming that LEGO deliberately marketed Bionicle 2.0 poorly as they just wanted to move on from the brand and have a reason to do so. Regardless, Bionicle's legacy remains strong today, as it showed LEGO the importance of character and story, which the company would later go on to apply to many other themes to date, including Ninjago and Legends of Chima. In the years since retirement, LEGO has paid tribute to Bionicle in a multitude of different ways. The company included a Bionicle homage in its 90 Years of Play set, which includes a brick-built Tahu, and would also later release a Bionicle gift with purchase in early 2023, including a brick-built Tahu and Takua. It is clear that Bionicle's cult following is not going anywhere. Anytime I post a video on the Base Bricks TikTok regarding a mech set or a buildable figure, I always have people in my comments wishing that LEGO would also just make new Bionicle sets. In total, 452 Bionicle sets were released, in addition to 4 movies and a bunch of other things, from comics to video games. Had it not been for the profits that LEGO brought in during the early 2000s, LEGO surely would have declared bankruptcy. Now, I know I didn't talk much about LEGO finances specifically in this video, but it is also a notable part of my previous video on the LEGO iceberg, which I definitely recommend watching if you have not already. What was your favorite Bionicle memory? What would you like to watch me talk about in future videos? Let me know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, all that fun stuff, so you can be notified when I do drop my next video, which, minor spoiler, will be part 2 of the LEGO iceberg chart explanation.